Hello, good evening everyone. I'm going to be starting the Figma Slides Party with somewhat of a serious topic, but don't worry, all of the other presenters have very, very good topics, and some of them are even funny. But yeah, yun nga. The topic that I'll be talking about today is something that I hope you keep in mind as we see and experience the very diverse set of ideas and presentations we have for today. Oh my gosh. Okay, but to start off, just to reintroduce myself again. Hi, I am Richard. I study, design, and build interactive experiences across realities. And what that means is I also design for mixed reality, virtual reality, aside from being a web and UX designer. So currently, you already know me as one of the present community leads of the Philippine Web Designers Organization. My other half is there in the orange shirt. He's also the one half community lead of the Philippine Web Designers Organization. And for work, what I really do is I basically do product and UX, and aside from my actual day job, I work part-time in DLSU as a human-computer interaction lecturer. And also, aside from that, I have a new affiliation with DLSU where I basically do research under the Human X Interactions Research Lab. These are my personal stuff. I also have a Google Scholar profile if you find that interesting. These are my work websites. And yeah, let's just begin with the actual talk because I am now running out of time. Okay, so just as a disclaimer, the contents of my presentation are really based on my personal observations, experiences, and opinions that I've been thinking deeply about for a while, ever since I got back home here in the Philippines. Because for additional context, during the pandemic, I went abroad to study human-computer interaction because I was not hopeful about the situation in the Philippines, so I just decided to leave. But then when everything is okay, and then I did some more thinking, okay, I should go back to the Philippines because I want to contribute to the local scene. And this is the result of my consistent reflection ever since I got back here last year. So this is all originally meant to be a blog post, so be warned that some of what I'm about to say might be very raw or controversial. Uunahan ko na kayo, there is no offense intended for everything that I'm about to say. Okay, so let me start off the actual. Oh no, we ran out of battery.
Pause.
Hello.
Pause the timer.
Alright, hello. Type C yan. Okay. Okay, so let me start off the presentation by just saying that our humble little industry of UI design, UX design here in the Philippines is on the cusp of radical change. And little by little, the job listings that we see, the tools that we're using, the workflows that we know, the responsibilities that we have, and the overall shape of our daily work is starting to change, right? So if you've been on LinkedIn recently, the definition of what a UX designer or what a UI designer is starting to shift. For some of you, you might have gotten new responsibilities. Maybe some of you are returning to code. Maybe some of you are starting to pick up visual design. And basically just the dynamics of our whole industry is changing, right? And because of this change, some of you might feel afraid of what's happening. Some of you might be excited of the potential futures of our industry. And some of you might be indifferent, especially for those of you who are a little bit older and have seen several hype cycles and change in our industry. But for those who are relatively new to the industry, so to speak, I just want to say that for better or worse, our jobs as designers will change. That is a given. The only thing that is consistent in our work as designers and as technologists is change, right? And it's important to note that our field has always changed, right? And something as recent as 10 years ago, which is when I was still an undergrad self-studying how to be a full-stack web developer, when I discovered the whole concept of user interface design, user experience design, the local design industry was still finding its footing. So as it was briefly mentioned earlier, Sketch was the design tool of choice. So shout out to Sketch Manila. We used to refer to artificial intelligence as machine learning. I'm just using my teacher voice. We used to refer to artificial intelligence as machine learning, and Figma was still in beta, right? And now that I bring this up, I'm starting to feel my age because I was a beta user of Figma, so technically I now have 10 years of experience in Figma. And I think most of you do actually, the early adopters, right? And in that time, like 10 years ago, UX designers typically came from the same backgrounds, right? A lot of us were generalists. A lot of people knew how to code their designs because they usually came from software engineering, computer science, information systems, all that stuff. And UX was considered to be a part of the front end, right? Notice how I say front end, which is a technical term, right? And the job titles that we used to have were also a bit different. So since the local design industry was still taking shape, our usual job titles were front-end developer, web designer, and the role of UI/UX designer, which I don't like, was already rare, right? We didn't have a dedicated role of UX design 10 years ago, unless if you were working at a startup that was VC funded or you were with a Y Combinator startup 10 years ago, right? But now these things are very common. And that is basically what the industry looked like almost a decade ago. In 2025, as we all know, UX is now a commodity. It's no longer rare. It's no longer a unique thing that we can say is basically the cool kids club. It's very common now. And design education is more accessible than ever, right? We now have boot camps. We now have an abundance of information on the internet, abundance of mentors in the local design community, and even in the university level, we're starting to see more formal courses take shape, centered around UX and UI design. And of course, we now have new technology like artificial intelligence and large language models helping expand our cognition as human beings. But this is now the hot take portion of the talk. But the designers of today have lost something, right? From the 10 years ago to now. Hot takes incoming. Some designers, even senior level, can't do things that were commonplace in the industry 10 years ago. Unfortunately, right? And this is just a list of some of the things that I've been observing slowly. First, no foundational knowledge on what is good interaction design. No idea how to design good interfaces for the web and beyond. They don't know how the platforms they design for actually work. They don't know how the artifacts they create are built. They design solutions that are technologically impossible. And the most egregious one is when someone is working on a design system, but they don't know what HTML looks like, right? And yes, the radical change that I mentioned in the start of the talk is the slow reintroduction of technical know-how, craft, and care in the design profession. For so many years, in the past 5 to 10 years, a lot of designers have been able to survive in the design industry because it used to be that UX was this unique thing that only a select few can do. But now that it's very commoditized, everyone is a designer, so to speak. The ones who do not have these traits are the ones who are unfortunately not that valuable in organizations. To add to this, designers who understand technology, those who know how to code, or those who even know how to translate technical concepts into delightful experiences are in the best position to provide immense value through design. Just being able to create Figma screens and doing your research won't cut it in the new economy that is shaping up, right? As I mentioned earlier, our roles are changing. The nature of UX design is starting to change. And you can even say that we are going back to how UX was practiced before, where UX designers were very deeply involved in the engineering process, aside from isolating themselves in the design process and just playing around in their Figma screens and handing it off to engineering without actually caring about the end result. And there is essentially no more excuses. Because we have an abundance of resources today, there really are no more excuses, right? Regardless of your opinion on artificial intelligence. It remains to be a fact that large language models can now generate user interfaces. You can use large language models to teach yourself concepts in a conversational manner. You can get an artificial intelligence that is infinitely patient with you as you try to learn new concepts. And you can watch hundreds of tutorials available on the internet, and you can find the many mentors who will gladly give their time to teach you. That is because our industry in the past 10 years has now progressed. UX is now a commodity, and there are so many people you can get help from, even in the engineering world. And this is my final message. just in time. Go beyond Figma. Go beyond pushing pixels. You have all the tools you need to turn your design vision into reality. The golden age of design is here. Yeah. Alternate title, designers should know how to write HTML. Thank you.
Kala ko maghahanda na tayo.
Dapat 5 minutes.